NFL Stock Exchange Podcast. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That's Connor Rogers. And this is the final divisional recap for the draft grades in the 2022 NFL Draft. Connor, it's bittersweet, man. I'm excited to get to the summer content. We talked about that a little bit in the last episode, but last two divisions, man, AFC West, NFC South. These are the final 8 teams to talk about, to recap for the 2022 NFL Draft. And then we'll never talk about these players again. Never. No. We'll never revisit it. This is it. This is the whole draft process right here.
Isn't it funny that you spend the draft process and some players you talk about for like 8 months and then they pop up like on a special teams tackle 2 years later and you're like, oh my God, I forgot that person existed. Like, what have they been doing?
It's always the first preseason. Preseason is just like, if they make one tackle, you're like I knew it all along. I talked about it this summer. This guy's going to be a stud, and then he'll never play again. But the beauty is you never have to care because they had that one highlight and your entire scouting report was dedicated.
Clip it out, tweet it out, tweet out the team accounts video, and you're good to go. So it really is wild to me when you're right. It is bittersweet saying goodbye to this draft in a sense of we're not talking about these guys as prospects anymore. Pretty much after this show and some Rookie of the Year talk and all that kind of futures stuff, we will be moving on to the 2023 draft, scouting the 2023 draft by position group in depth on this podcast. This will be a very busy but fun summer for this podcast. And then, man, once the preseason starts, we will be talking about these players from an NFL lens. So It feels really, really strange, but I am in a way. I'm actually not like a lot of people are like itching to get to the next draft class right before the NFL draft starts. I'm not like that at all. I actually don't like turning the page, but I'm finally ready at this point.
Well, I think it comes in phases, right?
Yeah.
The phase of, okay, now we see where these guys got drafted, the round, the team, the fit, everything. You get to talk about that, which we are for the next couple, which we have been for these last couple of weeks. And like now, I'm ready to turn the page to, I just made a joke about it, but like preseason training camp, like I'm looking to see like how
football
they're utilized.
Again, right? Real football.
Exactly. Get some pads on, get some helmets on. Let's see.
Training camp tweets from reporters. Oh, I was right about that guy. He made a catch for the third stringers. I warned all of you and none of you listened to me. You fools.
It's the most beautiful time of the year. Just absolute vindication for one single preseason.
Although next week you and I have a dynasty draft we're in together.
We do. Yeah.
Which is on a day that you and I, around a time that you and I actually record. So there's a chance the draft is happening when you and I are on Zoom together.
This is true. This is very true. We
pick back to back. Did you see that?
Oh, do we? I didn't even see the order.
I sadly pick 4th and you pick 5th.
Oh, so you're in front of me for that? No.
Yeah, I can snipe you every time. Every single time. Every single time I can snipe you.
Well, we're going to have to, we'll update the pod. We will have to update the podcast listeners, the loyal sex addicts out there, about our rookie draft haul. So we'll be able to do that for you guys sometimes next week. But before, like we said, we gotta get to the final chapter here. These last two divisions, the NFC South and the AFC West, two very interesting divisions. One of them, probably the most talented division in all of football, which is going to be a blast to go over. Before we start to break those down, got to talk to you guys about our presenting sponsor, our friends over at Jock Market. That is Jock MKT. Their motto: stop betting, start trading. It is the coolest concept. If you are out there and you've dabbled in just overall sports betting, daily fantasy, regular fantasy, whatever it is, if you've liked any of those, you have to check this out because it's got different elements of each. It's a great combination of all of them. And instead of, say, you look at a team and you go, okay, I like this team tonight. I like them to cover, or I like them to win outright. Instead, it's player matchups. It's more in the details. You go, man, I like this guy. He's been skating well. He's been hitting well. He's been shooting well. Whatever it is, I love this matchup. I want to bet on his individual performance. You could do that. You could throw some money on the line. They have guaranteed cash payouts at the end of every single night. You can see exactly how it works over at jockmkt.com/PFF. If you deposit right now up to $100, they're going to match you up to 100%. So you throw in $80 of your own money, you're going to get an extra free $80 to play with, courtesy of our friends at Jock Market. You can check them out at Jock Market, jockmkt.com/PFF, or on the app. That's how Connor and I use it, which is a very easy way to check all these things out. So make sure you do that as well. Connor, where do you want to start today? What team do you want to start with? What division you want to start with these final two divisions here for this?
I think we usually start with the NFC. So we'll stay there. We're going to start with the NFC South, and we're going to start, I think, on a good note with the Atlanta Falcons. I think we have to start with the Atlanta Falcons. This was, a team that is clearly rebuilding with the trade of Matt Ryan and the failed pursuit of Deshaun Watson, and obviously going into a year where Marcus Mariota is their projected starter. A relatively new regime on both ends of the front office and coaching staff. So first round pick for the Falcons, 8th overall wide receiver Drake London from USC. 2 second-round picks, and they used it both on the defensive side of the ball in the front 7. Arnold Ebiketie, the pass rusher from Penn State, 38th overall. Troy Anderson, 58th overall, the linebacker from Montana State. And then 2 third-round picks. So they were really busy on day 2 of this draft. They took Desmond Ridder, the quarterback from Cincinnati, with that first third-rounder. And the second third-rounder, they took D'Angelo Malone, another edge pass rusher from Western Kentucky. A 5th-round pick, they took Tyler Algier, the running back from BYU. 2 6th-round picks to close out this draft. Staying local, Justin Schaffer, the guard from Georgia. And staying local again, John Fitzpatrick, a blocking tight end from Georgia. Trevor, what'd you love with this draft?
Well, first of all, I'm very proud of you for remembering to recap the entire draft before we got into our little segments.
Draft grade show is the first time I remembered to actually read the picks.
So if you guys have listened to these shows before, how we break things up is we're going to go with loved, liked, and then some didn't get questions. And then, of course, we'll give you an overall grade. So Connor asked what I loved. What did I love about this draft? I loved Arnold Ebiketie at the top of the second round. I loved that they were able to navigate the draft that way, work the intel, feel like they didn't have to force a pass rusher, which they desperately needed at the top. Went with the player they really liked in Drake London, and instead were able to get what I think is a perfect guy who can come in and contribute right away, which is what they need in Arnold Ebiketie. Love the fact that they took a chance on Desmond Ridder where they did. Cannot believe that he fell that far. And it was kind of the perfect situation for me for the Atlanta Falcons. I was wondering if maybe, pre-draft, we were talking about 3 quarterbacks going in the first round, right? Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder probably going in the first round. We were thinking, man, could one of those guys be an option for the Falcons at number 8 overall? And if they're not, are you getting a quarterback that you even like at the top of the second round? Well, turns out they got a pretty damn good quarterback at the top of the third round in Desmond Ridder. So it's kind of a little bit of luck there in how the quarterbacks fell in this draft, but I loved how they capitalized on that. Loved D'Angelo Malone as well. Just no pass rush to be seen along this defensive line going into this draft. And so I liked the athletic upside and the overall readiness of Arnold Ebiketie. I think is an older pass rush prospect to be able to come in and contribute right away, something that the Falcons definitely need. Loved those 3. Liked Drake London, and Tyler Algier. Now, I think a lot of people are going to be like, Trev, Drake London was your wide receiver too. What gives? Why is he not a love? Well, he's not a love for me simply because there were so many areas where the Falcons could have gone pass rush wise, pass protection wise, that I still like the pick. Drake London, anybody who's listened to me talk about Drake London, they know how much I like him, how incredible I think he's going to be in that Falcons offense, especially once they get their solidified quarterback in there, whether it's Mariota, whether it's Ridder, whether it's somebody down the line. I think Drake London is going to be a steady wide receiver 1 for them for years and years and years. But there are plenty of wide receivers. They do have trench needs. And so I just bumped it down to a like, but y'all know how I feel about Drake London. I like Tyler Algier as well. Getting him in the 5th round, I think it is a great spell to what Cordell Patterson is for them as a player who they were going to want to move around a lot, using a lot of different ways, emphasize that athleticism, more of a downhill rusher, somebody who can do a lot of work between the tackles, making things happen through contact. So I love that pick. The don't get for me, sort of Troy Anderson, again, because when I look at this class, I go, okay, you had pass rush needs, you had pass protection needs. The offensive line is not good in Atlanta. You went wide receiver. Okay, I get it. Playmaker, wide receiver was also very barren. Arnold Ebiketie, I just praised how much I like that pick. And then you pick a linebacker in the 3rd. I would have liked to see some trenches on the offensive side of the ball emphasized there. I think I probably would have subbed out some sort of offensive line selection a little bit. That number 2, that second overall pick is probably where I would have targeted that one there. But a lot of people like Troy Anderson. They like the athleticism there. A little worried about the physical profile for him, but that's just my big question mark. If he works out and he's a fine football player, okay. I would have gone a different direction. I would have emphasized a little bit more in the trenches, but those were my overall thoughts on it. But Connor, all in all, this draft gets an A from me. Loved basically every single pick. Maybe has some question marks about the Anderson pick, but man, other than that, fantastic draft from Terry Fontenot.
I'm with you. Really, really good draft. I think when you look at it, it's hard not to love the pass rushing duo they got in Arnold Ebiketie. And of course, D'Angelo Malone. I had some pretty good value on those picks. I had Ebiketie in my top 30. He went 38th. I had D'Angelo Malone in my top 50. He went 82nd. So I thought they knocked it out of the park to finally get this team pass rush help on both ends. Loved those picks. Loved the Tyler Algier pick. I had him as my RB5. They got him in the 5th round. So that was plus 70 on value for me with the Falcons. I think they did a really good job there. Liked Drake London. They needed wide receiver help. They got 2 guys that can make plays on the ball in the air, and Kyle Pitts and Drake London. And I liked Troy Anderson. I do agree with your points, though, Trev. They had a lot of needs. So you wonder, taking a very, very athletic, but still a little bit of a project linebacker with a ton of upside, was that the move compared to all your other needs when you had this pick in the top 60? But I like Troy Anderson, the player, so I liked the pick. Didn't love the pick. There was nothing I didn't get with this draft. I think that they're a team that the roster was a little bare. They had a lot of needs. I thought they went and saw premium needs as pass rusher. I was not a Desmond Ridder guy, and they still got value on that pick. I had him 68th overall. They took him 74th overall. What's to lose? If Desmond Ridder stinks, it doesn't matter. It's worth the dart throw at that point.
Yep.
And, even Justin Schaffer is somebody that, I thought they, once again, got really good value. A guy that can play in a pinch if you need him. A little limited as a guard, but can at least provide your offensive line some depth and help you run the football in a power system. So, overall, I really like what the Falcons did. I see eye to eye with you on this draft. I gave it an A. I think it's a little bit of a long road for the Falcons in that division immediately, rebuilding, wondering what the long-term answer is going to be at quarterback for Arthur Smith's offense. But at least they are finally aligning some pieces on both sides of the ball that in the future, when, in my opinion, they do draft one of those, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young kind of players, there are pieces in place to succeed.
Yeah, some offensive linemen that were still on the board when they picked Troy Anderson. I mean, you had Bernard Ryman, you
That's
had
a big one.
Donald Parham, you had Sean Ryan, you had Abraham Lucas if you liked him as well. So, I mean, the Raymond selection could have been a big one for them. I would have liked to see that over Troy Anderson, but again, I know that you like the upside of him. A lot of other people do as well. So I'm not killing the pick too much, but that is, if I had a don't get, it was prioritizing linebacker when you got offensive line question.
One of our A's. I mean, not a lot of teams can say that on this series.
It's
Walk
true.
around with an A, and we both gave the Falcons an A.
Yeah. Next team. Let's talk about the New Orleans Saints next. We got Chris Olave in the first round at number 11, traded up to go get him. Trevor Penning then at number 19, the offensive tackle from Northern Iowa. Alontae Taylor, the cornerback from Tennessee, a little bit older of a prospect. They got him in the second round at 49, just within the top 50. Then they did not pick until the 5th round, DeMarco Jackson, the linebacker from App State. And then the 6th round, Jordan Jackson, the edge rusher from Air Force. What did we think about this one, Connor?
Not my favorite draft, and they're working with limited capital because of all the trades they've made. Typically, this is what the Saints do. I didn't love anything. I liked Chris Olave. I think Chris Olave is going to be a really solid number 2 wide receiver in this offense. I think he knows how to get open. He knows how to track the ball. With opportunities from Jameis Winston, Chris Olave is going to be just fine. I actually like them going up and doing what a lot of contenders didn't, and that's being aggressive to get one of the first-round caliber wide receivers in this draft. So I do give the Saints a lot of credit for making that move. The problem is, Trevor, I didn't like a single pick after that by a pretty wide margin. I didn't value Trevor Penning in the first round. I had Alontae Taylor as a 161st overall player in this draft. They took him at 49. I thought he was a depth zone corner that's going to have his struggles in man coverage despite his speed. Like you said, a little bit older of a prospect. I don't really think teams valued Alontae Taylor as a top 75 player in this draft. And when you're the Saints and you got the 2 first-rounders, you got the second rounder that's a top 50 pick, and then you don't pick until the 5th and 6th rounds, you got to hit on that top 50 pick. I don't think they did, personally. So, I just didn't like this draft. I don't really know how else to say it. I think the Saints are a good team. I think they're actually being underrated in the NFL. I think Jameis Winston, when he played last year, was pretty good, and I think that they have continuity under Dennis Allen and a lot of veteran additions, whether it's Honey Badger, Marcus May. I think overall, once again, I think Michael Thomas coming back. I think this is a good football team. I didn't think this was a good draft. I think Chris Olave is going to be impactful. I would personally be very surprised if they got anything else from this draft more than an above-average starter from this draft. And that's tough to say when you had not just the pick, you traded up at 11, but you had another top 20 pick and you had a top 50 pick. I just don't see upside with either of those guys personally. So I give it a C-. I was a little tough on this draft. I think the Saints are a good team. Didn't like how they played the board after Olave.
Well, it's interesting when you try to bring in the trade elements as well for the Saints, who obviously moved some capital to get those 2 first-round picks anyways with the Philadelphia Eagles to move from getting 18 to 16 and 19 as their picks that they had to start the evening. If you break it up between those 2 picks and you include the picks that they moved to go up from 16 to 11 to go get Chris Olave, essentially you're trading pick 18, which they had originally, the 101st pick, the 98th pick, and the 120th pick. So a first, 2/3, and a fourth to go up and get Chris Olave. That's fine. But then also traded a 2023 first and a 2024 second for the 19th pick, which got them Trevor Penning. That's the way that you would want to divide it up, right? That's the way that you would want to, I think, most evenly say, okay, we moved all these picks to get a dynamic wide receiver and an offensive tackle of the future. I'm not the biggest Penning fan. This podcast is not the biggest Penning podcast. And so I love them getting Chris Olave. I got to say that objectively in a vacuum, if you will, him on the field with Jameis Winston. We know that Jameis is going to be a vertical passer. Like he has to be. You can only keep the tiger in the cage so long, right? I mean, like eventually he's going to have to get to a point where his back's against the wall. They're going to need him to turn into that gunslinger kind of player. And with that deep pass savant like Chris Olave is going to go a long way for them, especially because I think that Michael Thomas is much more of a quick hit underneath, short to intermediate guy. Chris Olave can be a great complement to that as the over-the-top player. I think that they're going to benefit that a lot from him. I like Jackson, but he's a 5th-round pick, the linebacker there. I think he's kind of just a depth player, maybe a rotation guy. He was kind of the field general in the middle for App State, so I do like that pick. The Alontae Taylor and the Trevor Penning picks are the ones that I kind of have a little bit of umbrage with. Not the biggest Penning fan. Taylor's a little bit older of a prospect. I guess the Saints are really feeling like they're just in win now mode, though. You know, like you got to go get the offensive lineman to fill the hole from Teron Armstead, right? So you had to do that. You had to make a move along the offensive line. And then Taylor, I suppose that they're thinking, hey, he's an older prospect. Hopefully he can come in, contribute right away, give us a secondary boost. So maybe they're thinking that as well. I didn't love the draft, especially for all the picks that they gave up to go get their players. That's kind of what the Saints do. I would give this like a C or a C+, but I do think the return on investment could be high for this team if Penning pans out, certainly because you're going to have a chance to right away. And then if they need Jameis to become from behind, gunslinger Jameis, and Olave is kind of able to pop the first season. So I'm going to give it a C+, but maybe I'm a little bit of a hater on it. Maybe we're just a little bit of a haters here on this podcast, but that's kind of where I'm at with it and how I see this draft.
Yeah, well, once again, think the Saints are a good team. Think they make a lot of great pro personnel moves. Think they make a lot of great aggressive moves. But I think after the Olave pick, this draft just did not do it for me. And I'd be a stone cold liar if I said anything else. I mean, I had Penning 28 spots later than where he got drafted. I had Alontae Taylor 112 spots later than when he got drafted. I had DeMarco Jackson 25 spots later than when he got drafted. If you guys have been listening to the show by now, I'm going to call it how I see it, and there's always a chance that some of my rankings will be way off, but I'm gonna ride with them. So
hey, that's what the instant grades are, right? I mean, these guys haven't played it down in the NFL yet, so what we are grading them off of is the process and how they got to the players and the picks and where they were versus our big board, and that's kind of just what it is. We don't think it's the be all end all, but it's an instant grade show, so we're telling you about the process.
All right, Carolina Panthers, first round pick, 6th overall, Ike Ekwonu. Bit of a surprise Ike made it there. I think Panthers fans are ecstatic about that outcome. Next pick, 3rd round, Matt Corral, 94th overall. Bit of a slide for the quarterback from Mississippi. Round 4, Brandon Smith, the linebacker from Penn State. 2 6th-round picks, Amari Barno, the kind of hybrid backer edge player from Virginia Tech. And then Cade Mays, a guy that's played everywhere on the offensive line for Tennessee. And then Kalen Barnes, the blazing corner from Baylor in the 7th round. That guy can absolutely fly. So, Panthers, I have to apologize to our Panthers listeners of the show for mocking them Kenny Pickett for months after months. And I think they walked out, all in all, in a really, really good situation, all things considered. Trev, what did you think of this draft?
I can recap this draft in 3 words. All right?
We are sorry?
No. Well, it's true. It's true. That is a good way to do it. But at the top, Ike Ekwonu, we've got... Well, actually, I'm just gonna say the one word for each pick, okay? Beef, swag, speed, beef, speed. That's the entire draft for the Carolina Panthers in order of how they picked everybody. Ike Ekwonu, beef. Matt Corral, swag. Brandon Smith, speed. Amari Barno, speed. Cade Mays, beef. Kalen Barnes, speed. Okay, like that's just it was just a beef and speed draft. I don't know if that's an order at a takeout place somewhere, but in Carolina, it could be at this point because that is how I feel like the Carolina Panthers approached this draft. They were very lucky to get Ike Ekwonu where they did. You and I talked about this so much during the pre-draft process. They had 2 major needs, quarterback, left tackle. You had 1 pick to do it. You were picking 6 overall, and you weren't picking again until the 4th round. If you traded down, there was a good chance you weren't going to get a good enough caliber of an offensive lineman for it to matter. And if you were picking a quarterback in the 2nd and 3rd round, history tells you might as well have just thrown away that pick because they often do not work out. So it was a bad situation for them to potentially trade down. It could have made you feel good in the moment, but in practicality and process, it probably wasn't going to work out for you. And instead, this is essentially, I have to give this draft an A for the Carolina Panthers because I cannot imagine a better case scenario than them getting one of the big 3 offensive linemen at number 6 overall. The quarterback's falling enough for them to at least take a chance on Matt Corral, at least have the ability to pick one of the quarterbacks that could at least give you faith right away. So I think the fact that they landed those 2 guys, the draft basically has to be an A even after those first 2. Brandon Smith, former 5-star player, brings a lot of the speed to the second level of the defense. He's a more slender linebacker player who is built more on speed than he is on power. I think he's got to get a little bit stronger at the next level to make sure that he can hold up and be a 3-down. They'd be a 3-down linebacker there. He's got to be able to play either middle linebacker or will linebacker, but he's got to have that strength profile and honestly the anticipation, the coverage, the reps, everything to be able to play both. That's how he's going to maximize his value there. Amari Barno basically had the fastest edge 40 that we've ever seen. Cade Mays, which I mean, you love the burst off the edge. That's what you're going for there. Cade Mays, former 5-star offensive lineman from Tennessee, who, man, I mean, he's a mauler. He's a guy who you want to get those guys. He's probably going to play on the interior. A lot of people thought, okay, maybe his future's at offensive tackle. No, I think that kind of went out the window. I think he's much more of an interior offensive lineman. He's kind of proved that over the last couple of years. And then Kalen Barnes almost broke the 40-yard dash record as a cornerback who brings you a ton of speed there. So you're just upping the speed in the secondary, which is never a bad thing, especially with a pick as late as the 7th round, being able to get him at that spot. So honestly, Connor, I love the first 2 picks. I think this draft is an A right after Ike Ekwonu and Matt Corral. You don't even need to see anything else, but I like the rest of the draft. I did. They were just taking swings with high ceiling guys, either athleticism or size. So I liked it, man. This is another draft that gets an A from me.
I really like the approach, right? I loved the Ike Ekwonu pick. I loved the Matt Corral pick. Ike was what I thought the best player in this draft. Corral, I had him as the 49th overall player. They took him 94th. So I'll say this right now. I know Corral has his current shortcomings as a guy that, schematically is going to have big adjustments at the next level, and decision-making is going to have big adjustments at the next level. But just athletically, and based off of arm talent, there are going to be a lot of people in training camp that summer looking around and going, sure, we don't want to play this guy over what we've already seen from Sam Darnold?
Right.
Are we sure? And I don't even know if I think Corral needs time. He's far away from being a week-by-week starter. But physically and athletically in training camp, I think Matt Corral is going to turn some heads when he's throwing side-by-side with Sam Darnold. So, love those picks. Get into the I like Amari Barno because you're just, like you said, Trev, taking an athlete at edge. There's times where he gets lost on tape, but he's so athletic and there are splash plays that you bet on that in the 6th round. Then you look at the Cade Mays pick. He's somebody that 35 starts for Georgia, 19 at right guard, 12 at right tackle, 2 at left guard, 2 at left tackle. 17 starts for Tennessee, 11 at right tackle, 6 at right guard. I agree with you. He's going to play guard at the next level. But that kind of versatility and game experience in the SEC, and that amount of starts, I mean, it's pretty crazy to have over 50 starts, and they're split up between 4 different positions at the college level. Speaks a lot to Caden Mays and the kind of depth he can provide on the offensive line right away, which, Carolina has dealt with depth issues or experienced what it's like being a little thin on offensive line, and you got a stud in Ickey. The only pick I didn't get, and this is really nitpicking, I hate to even do this, is Brandon Smith. I wasn't a big Brandon Smith guy. He's an amazing athlete. It's just he has not figured it out on the field. There's no instincts. Like you said, a little bit of a lighter guy. He's a dynamic athlete. If they have a special teams plan for him, he might be a big-time contributor there. But I don't think he could be on the field anytime soon for Carolina. So nitpicking there. I thought, they reached on him. I gave this an A-. I thought the Panthers had an awesome draft when they really, really needed to have one. And it goes back to my Falcons argument a little bit, with Ritter and Corral are similar, where, hey, if they're not the guy, it's not really a big deal. And if there's a next guy coming in, he's walking into a situation where he at least has a chance to develop and succeed. And having a cornerstone like Ickey on that offensive line with all the weapons they have, the Panthers at least have built now an infrastructure that it might not be pretty this year, and that's just the reality. But in 2023, 2024, they have a foundation in place for a young quarterback to develop. A-. So that's 2 drafts for us that we've both given A's. That has not been very rare on the series so far.
I have at least one more A to go in this episode.
I have one in my back pocket as well.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that's the last team in this division in the NFC South that we have to talk about here. First round, didn't have a first-round pick. They ended up trading back from 27 to 33. They
lied to Lewis Cine. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Dude, that happens. I can't tell you how many of those happen, though. I feel bad for Lewis Cine. I get it, but that happens multiple times every single year, as long as we've been on this earth and drafts have happened.
So for those who, I want to get the quote up right here. For those of you who missed this, I don't know where this quote came from, but Lewis Cine said, quote, "I had a team at 27. They know who they are. I'm not going to say no names. It was at 27. Okay, Lewis. Well, we know what team was picking at 27. The whole process, they said, if you're there, we're going to pick you. They moved down to the second round, and I'm like, damn, they really did me so dirty. So that was obviously Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay was sitting there at number 27. If you guys listen to the guest mock draft series, you know for a fact that Lewis Cine was one of the 5 players that John Ledyard talked about that they liked, that they had on the board. Yeah. Turns out he was probably their top guy, but I think that going back to what John was talking about, Lewis Cine, Logan Hall, Trey McBride, like all of those guys were right in the mix, and Tampa's sitting there at 27, have a chance to pick up some extra draft picks, go to the top of the second round, and they think we're guaranteed to get one of these guys. We're guaranteed to get one of the players that we like if we trade down to 33. So they did just that. Lewis Cine ends up going number 32 overall to the Minnesota Vikings in the final pick of the first round, right before the Bucs picked at 33. So look,
he understandably probably wanted to go to the Bucs.
Well, yeah.
Why wouldn't he?
Look, living in Minnesota or living in Tampa. I'm sorry. All due respect to everybody who lives in Minnesota. I love you dearly. But
Tom Brady, Super Bowl chances a rookie.
Come on, right.
Once again, I will die on the hill that Todd Bowles is the best safety developer in the NFL of the last 10 years.
Also important. But, you just play next to Harrison Smith. So, anyways.
Going to be doing a lot of tackling.
Lewis Cine.
Just kidding.
He is absolutely allowed to feel like that. 100%. He is allowed to feel like that. And you know what? The Bucs are allowed to do what they did. And I would say that about any team. I'm not just saying that because it's a Tampa team. I'm saying that about any team. Connor, you mentioned it before I even read the quote. This happens every year. Every single year, teams tell a guy, we will take you if you are there. Hell, the biggest regret that the Bucs might have in franchise history is in Aaron Rodgers' draft. John Gruden called him the week of the draft and said, if you are there when we pick, we're picking you. Guess what happened? They didn't pick him.
Happens all the time.
You hate to see that, don't you?
Anyways. Yeah, you do not love it. Let me just say that.
Hey, it all put Tampa on the road to Brady. So, it was the long game. Gruden was just playing the long game.
Yeah.
All right, number 33 overall, they took Logan Hall, the defensive lineman from Houston. Luke Gadecki, the offensive lineman from Central Michigan, the second round at number 57. Third round pick. They had Rachaad White, the running back from Arizona State. Fourth round, Cade Otton, and then Jake Camarda, the punter from University of Georgia, who we had listed incorrectly on draft night on the PFF draft show. I thought they picked a kicker, and I was freaking out because I was like, why the hell would they pick a kicker? This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. They have Ryan Succop. What, like, did Ryan Succop die? Did he retire? What happened? Why are they picking a kicker? And he's a punter because we had it listed wrong. So that's on me. That's my bad.
You have a little meltdown moment?
Well, I a little bit because I was like, what are we doing? What? No, it doesn't make any sense.
Why would we do this?
So anyways, Zion McCollum, the cornerback for Sam Houston State. They got him in the 5th round. Ko Keefe, the tight end from Minnesota, in the 6th round. And then Andre Anthony, the edge rusher from LSU, in the 7th. Connor, what'd you love? What'd you like? And what didn't you understand here with this Tampa pick?
Love the Cade Otton pick, though they got great value on that. I think he fits everything they need. I thought he was a good blocker. I read one of those blurbs the other day. I can't remember what it was, and I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but it was one of those fantasy blurbs, and it was like, at 245 pounds, he's probably not going to be able to get on the field as a blocker. And I'm like, Cade Otton had 1,000 blocking snaps at Washington. He's a very adequate blocker. He's a classic Tampa tight end. I think he's going to be just fine there. He catches everything in the 5 to 12-yard range. I really liked that pick and think he could play right away. Gronk's going to come back and just miss all these OTAs and all that stuff, but it's still good to have insurance. Gronk gets banged up. And they lost O.J. Howard, of course, this offseason as well. So really, I love the Otton pick. I liked the Logan Hall pick. I liked the Gadecki pick, and I liked Zion McCollum pick as well. Zion was my favorite developmental corner in this draft. He is a elite athlete, an incredible athlete. I think he could be a top-flight gunner right away that's going to learn how to play corner in Todd Bowles' system on the outside. So I really, really liked that pick. I think Gadecki could start at guard. I have no problem with that. I know he played tackle in college. He could start at guard for the Bucs if they need him to.
Yep.
I think Logan Hall will need some time, but they're not going to ask him to be a superhero right away. They just want him to come in and rush. So I liked the Logan Hall pick. The only thing I really didn't get with this draft, because this was not like a sex appeal draft at all. It was like, we have our needs, we're going to get them, and you're just going to have to deal with that. And they did a good job doing that because they are a Super Bowl contender. I'm not the biggest Rachaad White guy. I thought he was a really nice top of day 3 kind of running back. They took him in the not top of day 3, more middle of day 3 running back. I know he's a little bit elusive. I don't think he's a great athlete. I think he's just a solid player. They passed on a lot of running backs I liked more than him. So we'll see how that one works out. But this was a B- to me. I thought the Bucs, considering their resources, had a rock-solid draft. They attacked needs, and they already have the foundational players they need in place on the pro side that they're going to be going for a Super Bowl again.
I will just say that this was a classic Jason Light draft. Every single player is just a classic.
Very meat and potatoes draft.
Jason Light player, right? I mean, just from I love the Gadecki pick. I think that you're right. He played offensive tackle. He's going to play on the interior for the Bucs. He could even play right away this season. He is, after listening to his interviews, this dude is eats a bowl of nails for breakfast without any milk, that kind of player. I'm sure Jason Light loved him from the moment that he found out what kind of personality that he had. And
he mows the lawn after practice like that.
100%. So I'd love that pick. I think that's great. Them getting Zion McCollum and taking a chance on him to develop him with potentially conflicting cornerback contracts with Sean Murphy-Bunting and Jamel Dean coming up a year from now. I think that was smart to get on that corner group and to take a chance on a guy who has a uniquely high ceiling as an athlete. I think was nice. I like the Logan Hall pick. I like the Rachaad White pick. I like the Cade Otton pick. I think those are all solid players who kind of, like I said, Logan Hall is like a better version of William Golston, they're hoping. Who they kind of already have there. Cade Otton is a better version of Anthony Auclair when they drafted Anthony Auclair, right? Where they want this guy who can be a rock solid inline tight end for you, who can also give you a little bit more in the passing game than Anthony Auclair was able to do. So that's why he's picked earlier, but that's the mold that they were going for. Rachaad White, obviously a Tom Brady preference because he threw the ball to James White so much. He just sees White on the back of the jersey, immediately just goes pinpoint straight to the hands, third down back. I'm obviously kind of kidding right there, but I do think that he's going to be a third down specialist for them.
I think you're onto something.
Listen, I said that I was kind of joking.
I mean, Tom Brady complained about the number rule change.
Joking.
He's a man of consistency. He did not like when guys could change their numbers to single digits. So
this is very true. Was James White number 25 with the?
You'd think I would know it, considering he caught 700 passes against the New York Jets.
28. He was 28. Is anybody on the Bucs roster 28? Bucs roster.
Oh man, let's take a look.
I need to know, because if he's,
I got you.
Brady's Brady's gonna pay him to pick 28.
Yes, Rashard Robinson, Jets and LSU legend.
No, Brady's gonna pay out his contract to just get him off the team and give the jersey. He's just gonna
Rashard Robinson holding on to 28. Man, Todd Bowles must love him. I didn't know he was still in the league.
Big up Rashard Robinson. The only thing that I didn't like about this draft is just some of the players that they prioritized, right? Like, they picked Logan Hall. I would have rather had them pick Kyler Gordon or Travis Jones, right? I think it's that kind of a situation.
Travis Jones, I agree with, yes.
Yeah, and it's just like there's a couple of like I like the Gadecki pick, so like I'm not going to nitpick that one too much. It's just some of the players that they prioritized where they did. It was never not going to be this way, because, like I said, this is a classic Jason Light draft. So it's hard for me to be too hard on this when I know that this was always how it was going to be. Honestly, it's B plus, something like that. This was always the draft that Tampa was going to have. So it's hard to be too difficult on it. They went into this draft with a plan. They came out of it with the exact players that they probably wanted. The only guy that they really wanted that they didn't get. I'm sure they liked Lewis Seam, but obviously you got to make choices there. Maybe they wish they would have been able to get Trey McBride if he slipped a little bit further in the second round. But other than that, these are probably the exact players they wanted.
Yeah, you know this team as well as anyone. They just strike me as a team that, like, they find their guys and they're like,
yep, 100%.
Yep, we'll take them.
Yep.
Don't care.
Yep.
Every board will tell us we're 20 spots too early. We don't care.
And sometimes
that's okay.
And sometimes that's dangerous thinking, right?
Yes.
But the Bucs are pretty damn good at team building. I think that Jason Light has earned the right to get the benefit of the doubt in this, and to believe that he's going to pick the right players. And especially, of course, guys, Tom Brady helps. I get it. But I think that they picked the guys that they were always going to pick. Before we move on to the next division, got to tell you guys about our friends over at Sunday. Does your lawn have weeds, bare patches, pet spots? Well, Sunday can help you solve all of these problems and more the easy way. They've got everything you need, from fertilizer to seeds to weed control, all delivered right to your door. Sunday can help you grow a beautiful lawn without the guesswork or, which is this very key, the nasty chemicals. Their custom plans include fertilizer and everything you need to easily take care of your lawn, and you can feel good with the kids playing around, the pets playing around, all that. None of that chemical stuff. Just attach the ready-to-use pouch to the garden hose and spray. It takes 15 minutes. That's it, guys. Sunday is offering our listeners 20% off. Full season plans start at $129, and you can get 20% off of that at checkout when you visit getsunday.com/NFL. That is 20% off your custom lawn plans at getsunday.com/NFL. All right, Connor, this is it. Final division. It is the AFC West. I think it's safe to say we saved the best for last. Maybe not the best draft classes, but certainly the best division in the NFL, which was on an arms race that we may have never seen in NFL history this past offseason. So what team are we starting with here in the AFC West?
Let's kind of start with the team that's the darling of, the choice to make the biggest jump, I think, in the NFL, and that would have to be the Los Angeles Chargers. Everything for the Chargers screams, man, they're ready, right? I really do.
Gotta be.
Right? You got a star at quarterback. You have the Khalil Mack trade. Now Joey Bosa's put in perfect positions where they have two top-flight edge rushers. You got a coach that is very, very aggressive in unique ways. You got a ton of weapons. This is a good football team. And the problem is, as you will hear on the show, the other three teams in this division are freaking awesome as well. So we'll start with the Chargers draft here, Trevor. How could we do anything else? And these drafts matter so much for these teams trying to get any edge they can in this division. The Chargers' first-round pick was Zion Johnson, offensive lineman, most likely guard from Boston College. third rounder, because they had no second rounder. That was in the Khalil Mack trade. JT Woods, the free safety from Baylor, bit of a ball hawk. Round 4, Isaiah Spiller, the running back from Texas A&M. Round 5, Atito Ogbanya, the defensive tackle from UCLA. Round 6, Jamari Sawyer, a versatile offensive lineman, but most likely ready to play guard at the next level from Georgia. Jasir Taylor, the defensive back from Wake Forest. Dean Leonard, the defensive back from Mississippi, and Xander Horvath, the fullback versatile player from Purdue. So Trevor, a good amount of picks here. A lot of very popular names in the draft community. What'd you think of this draft?
Man, when I go to what I loved about this draft category, I love the 2 offensive linemen that they were able to pick up. And it's funny that they got these 2 guys as far apart as they did. Zion Johnson in the first round and then Jamari Sawyer in the 6th round.
By the way,
I would have thought Jamari Sawyer was a lot closer to third. Maybe
yeah, I thought he'd go in the top 100 personally.
Yeah, man. Like I thought that he was going way earlier than this. So I wonder if he's banged up. I wonder if it's health concerns. I wonder what it is with him because maybe he's not playing offensive tackle in the NFL. Still, dude's going to be a damn good guard as long as he's healthy, but who knows? We'll see if something kind of comes out about that. That's the only thing that I can think of why he would have been somebody who slipped that far. But I love those 2 additions, right? I think that when you look at this team and how much they're going to emphasize the pass and get the most out of Justin Herbert's incredible arm. You've got to be able to protect. You've got to be able to keep him upright. You've got to even an extra half a second, preventing guys from collapsing the pocket from the inside, from those 3 tech, 1 tech, 0 technique positions, the blitzes that'll come up the middle, right? If you can hold that front of the pocket right in front of the quarterback, it's just so valuable, especially knowing that you have a player like Rashawn Slater on the left side. Now, I think that they're still working out who exactly is going to be the right tackle, but you figure that out at some point. You've got a really healthy, strong interior offensive line, and then you got 2 guys that you got faith in, hopefully at some point to play on the outside at offensive tackle. They know they have that with Slater, but we'll see who's going to be right tackle. I think Storm Norton is still supposed to be the right tackle, which isn't the best thing in the world, but all that to say, I love that they emphasize the interior. I love that they are putting their money where their mouth is, drafting their franchise quarterback, seeing him go the F off, and then just really making sure that the big boys in front of him are as good as they need to be. I liked Atito Ogbanya, because I think that he is a strong, stout run defender in the middle. He brings a lot of size to that interior defensive line, so I like that they were building through both of the inside of the trenches there. I like the Isaiah Spiller pick. I wasn't the biggest Isaiah Spiller fan, but where they got him, what was it, 4th round, right? 4th round pick, 123 in the draft. I mean, like at that point, okay, you go get him, make him a rotational back. I think that you look at what he was able to do and the flashes and the strengths and what you saw him do at Texas A&M. You say, okay, like I'll take that in the 4th round. Sure. A lot of people were talking about him as like RB1, maybe a 1st round running back. And that's where I had a lot of pushback on. I was like, okay, no. We're not even close to that. But 4th round, hell yeah, I think it's a good pick. So I like the Isaiah Spiller pick. I like the JT Woods pick as well. I think he's a safety who's got good athleticism. He's an explosive dude. I think that certain parts of his game, when it comes to like flipping the hips or just like changing direction, he's not as fluid with that as he is like in a straight line speed, explosive. When you see him, like when the ball's in the air and he's got kind of like a straight line path towards the angle of the ball flight, he can really fly and get to that point. He needs to anticipate things a little bit better to, I think, be that rangy safety that they can really depend on. The only thing that I didn't like about this draft is I guess they're good at corner and wide receiver, which is fine. But, we sat here at number 17 doing mock drafts for the Chargers. And a lot of times if Jordan Davis made it this far, we'd be like, okay, Jordan Davis. If a corner made it this far, like a Trent McDuffie, then we would say, okay, maybe you're going to get a Trent McDuffie. You're going to push Asante Samuel inside, or you're just going to give yourself versatility for one of those guys to go inside and out. And then wide receiver as well. But when you look at the depth chart, you go, okay, like I can see why they didn't totally go for a premium resource in that spot. They've got Jalen Guyton, they've got Keenan Allen, they have Mike Williams, they had Gerald Everett, they've got Josh Palmer, right? They've got all those guys as the receiving weapons. You have Austin Eckler, who is a receiving weapon himself out of the backfield. So I think that they're okay there. At corner, you signed J.C. Jackson, which is huge. You still do have Michael Davis. You've got Asante Samuel Jr., Bryce Callahan's on this team. So I guess I get it. And that's why I'm not very harsh on this draft. I think it's like an A-, B+. I ended up giving it a B+, but if you wanted me to give it an A-, I could be kind of talked into that because I do. I think that it was a really great draft for him. Maybe not as big of a home run with names as we thought it might be for Los Angeles, But as long as they're cool with what they've got at corner and wide receiver, I liked how they went about the rest of it. What'd you think?
I'm with you. I gave it a B+. I love the Spiller and Sawyer picks. I just think that Spiller, in my opinion, is the running back they've been missing for a little bit now, maybe even since Melvin Gordon left. I love Austin Eckler, but he's a totally different player than what Isaiah Spiller brings. Spiller can be that early down bruiser that gets you some tough yards, that when Eckler's banged up, he's going to be the guy, in my opinion. So I loved that pick. Jamari Sawyer was my 58th overall player. They got him at 195. There's not a lot of picks that represent that kind of value in this draft to me. And like you said, Trevor, is there something we don't know? I haven't heard anything. So
right.
I think Sawyer is a future starter in the league. The fact they got 2 building block guards in this draft, and Zion Johnson in the first round, Sawyer in the 6th round, was excellent. So I love Sawyer, love Spiller, liked Zion. I can't sit here and say I loved it. I thought he was a back-end round 1 kind of guy that took him 17th. Like you said, there were some better players on the board, but you really feel good about his floor. So I thought they had a good draft. JT Woods to me was a little early, but they wanted a defensive back with ball skills, and he was one of the guys in this draft that he has a clear resume and tape of finding the football. So I can't even get on that pick too much. I gave it a B+. Really, really liked what the Chargers did, and I know this division is going to be an absolute dogfight, but I think they are poised to take that next step and be a playoff team.
Let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs. Hard to not like this one, Connor. I'm just going to be straight up, even before I read the names. Man, in the first round, they took two players that I liked a lot. Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis at 21 and 30. The second round, they had 2 picks. Sky Moore, the wide receiver from Western Michigan. Brian Cook, the safety from Cincinnati. Third round, Leo Chenal, the linebacker out of Wisconsin. Fourth round, Joshua Williams, somebody that I talked about a lot pre-draft, the cornerback from Fayetteville State. Fifth round, Darian Kennard. How the hell did Darian Kennard last to the fifth round? Insane, the offensive lineman from Kentucky. Then in the 7th round, they had Jalen Watson, the corner from Washington State. Isaiah Pesco, the running back from Rutgers. And then Najee Johnson, the safety from Marshall. What'd you think, Connor? How'd you like this draft?
I loved it. It's one of my favorite drafts. I would say the Ravens was the only one that I think I liked more. I think this was my second favorite draft out of the entire damn thing. I just look at the Chiefs here. The best way I can explain it, they had an overall plus 258 value for me. They were just getting, every time a player fell.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of value. Every time a player fell after the second round, they took him. And McDuffie, to me, great pick. Karlaftis, where they got him, rock solid. Sky Moore, awesome fit. Brian Cook, awesome fit. A lot of those picks, besides Moore, were basically right where I had those guys. Then they went on this run where they were just getting value. Leo Chenal, I had him as the 55th overall player. I think he's a starter at inside linebacker. I called him a taller Nick Bolton. They already have Nick Bolton. They got him at 103.
God. I didn't even think about the absolute carnage that it's going to be.
Oh, my God.
Bolton and Leo Chenal in the same linebacker room.
Carnage, dude. It's going to be nuts. Josh Williams, a corner that I really liked. I like his length and speed. Had him in the top 100. They got him 135. Darian Kennard, I had him 61st. They got him 145. I think he's a guard, and that's fine. Imagine Darian Kennard and Orlando Brown playing next to each other. Like, there's a lot with this team. Darian Kennard is this year's Trey Smith for them. A guard that fell a million rounds, and he's going to come in and probably be able to play.
Such a good call. Jalen
Watson, a defensive back that I had in my top 200. They got him at 243. Even Pacheco, the running back from Rutgers, I wouldn't say right in my backyard, but close enough here. He's got some burst, Trev. He was in a dog crap offense, but it wouldn't shock me if a couple injuries happen in the Chiefs backfield and this guy can play. He could at least be a change of pace back. So I loved this draft. They killed the value. They got starters galore. They got role players galore. They got some developmental guys on the back end. But when you walk out of the draft and you got a minimum 5 starters, which I think they did, that's an A+. The Chiefs killed it. They had a great draft. And I actually don't think Brett Veach has been this incredible drafter. I think Reed and Mahomes at times have covered up some warts over the years of their drafts. I thought this was a total slam dunk for Kansas City.
We don't have to spend too much time on this one because it's a draft that you and I talked about in the Monday immediately following the draft, where it was like, this is one of our favorite drafts. it was just, you mentioned it, over 250 points of plus value of where they picked guys compared to your big board. I mean, it just speaks to how much the Chiefs were always in an opportunistic position. That's where their franchise is. That's where the front office mindset is. That's a process that you absolutely love. These are all players who have the chance to have massive dividends. And that is not even including the fact that they signed Justin Ross as a undrafted free agent. Right. They won that sweepstakes, even though it wasn't as much of a sweepstakes as we thought it was going to be. And it's like, dude, you're getting Justin Ross as an undrafted free agent. As long as his health checks out and this guy can get on the field, it's still Justin freaking Ross.
Yeah.
And you got him as an undrafted free agent. Wild, man. Just an absolutely wild draft weekend for the Chiefs. Truly one of my favorites, an absolute A, if not an A+, right there with the Ravens. I'm with you as one of the best draft classes that there was. Let's move on to the Denver Broncos. Broncos obviously made the huge splash of the offseason by trading. Well, I can't even say that. This offseason was just off the freaking walls. But they traded for Russell Wilson. It was one of the biggest moves that we saw. So they didn't have a first-round pick, moved for Russell Wilson there. Second-round pick, very end of the draft, Nick Bonito, the linebacker pass rusher from Oklahoma. In the third round, they got Greg Dulcich, the tight end from UCLA. Fourth round, they had a pair of fourth-round picks. Damari Mathis, who is the cornerback / maybe safety, depending on what you think of his athleticism, from Pitt. And then Yoma Awuzurike, the interior defensive lineman from Iowa State. Fifth round, they had 3 fifth-round picks. De'Aaron Turner-Yell, the safety from Oklahoma. Montreal Washington, the wide receiver from Samford. And then Luke Wattenberg, the offensive lineman, probably a center from Washington. Sixth round, Matt Henningsen, the defensive lineman from Wisconsin. And then another Wisconsin player, Faion Hicks, the cornerback there in the 7th round to round it all out. Connor, what'd you think?
A little bit up and down, this one. I loved the Nick Bonito and De'Aaron Turner-Yell picks, ironically, both from Oklahoma. Bonito, to me, was a very, I believe I compared him to Hassan Reddick, that kind of player for me in this draft. That he's got juice off the edge. They signed Randy Gregory. They had Bradley Chubb. They got something going there with their edge pass rush. I really liked that pick. De'Aaron Turner-Yell, I think, is a pretty explosive player on the back end and can be something for a 5th-round pick. Honestly, the rest of it, Trevor, it really did nothing for me. They had 4 picks after Turner-Yell. I had those guys as UDFAs, and it's 2 5th-round picks, a 6th-round pick, and a 7th-round pick. I didn't even have those guys as priority UDFAs, so I didn't really understand what they were doing there. I thought Damari Mathis was a really good athlete, but a project that they took so early. Uwazurike is somebody that I do like for what he is. I think he can contain and hold the point of attack and will have a role. I wasn't as hot on as Dulcich as everyone else seemed to be. I think he's a one-dimensional tight end. He can run the seam for you. I don't think he'll ever be a blocker. I don't know if he's a good enough athlete to be a true weapon as a pass catcher only. I guess we'll see. So I like Bonito. I like Turner-Yell. Azurike is fine. This draft didn't do a lot for me. Now, they traded a lot of capital for Russ, so I want to give them their credit there. That doesn't fully factor into this grade, but I gave it a C+. My big question for Denver right now is who's playing right tackle for a quarterback that has gotten banged up in the past. I don't like their right tackle situation, and I thought they had multiple opportunities to take a few swings at that in this draft, and they just didn't seem to care.
Well, I seem to be higher on this draft than you are. First of all, I think Billy Turner's playing right tackle for him.
That's not good.
Billy Turner played, hey man, last 2 years have been the best years of his career with PFF grades, and he's played right tackle. So
Green Bay finds a way to get something out of these guys.
So look,
yeah, we'll see.
Daniel Hackett's there. He's coming over from Green Bay. Maybe he knows how to say stuff to Billy Turner to make him play good at right tackle. So I know that they probably think that they've got a solid spot with Billy Turner at right tackle. So that's probably why they didn't emphasize it. I gave this draft a B+, and it's a little inconsistent of me here because at the beginning of this exercise last week, we talked about, okay, how much are we factoring in the trades that they made?
It's a really fair point.
And if you're being honest, this draft is an A
with Russ. Totally.
You look at, and not just objectively getting Russ, the fact that for the last 2 years, George Paton knew that he had Aaron Rodgers as a potential on his team. Right before the draft last year, when all the panic ensued, he was basically the only team who would have been able to capitalize on Aaron Rodgers had things gone like nuclear south immediately. And he was the only team that was really poised to make that happen. I genuinely believe that is why they did not take a quarterback when they did, because he believed that he could get Aaron Rodgers at some point. They miss out on Aaron Rodgers and then days later make a Russell Wilson trade happen. Incredible work by George Paton. And so if you factor those things in, this draft is an A, but I'll give it a B+ because where I wasn't as high on Nick Bonito as everybody else seemed to be, I believe there were only a handful of spots in which Nick Bonito could have really been maximized in the NFL, right? He has to be a stand-up player. He can't be a hand-in-the-dirt guy. But he's not even somebody who will be it's not like you can look at every single odd front team in the NFL and be like, okay, just make him an outside linebacker and an odd front team. Well, no, that might not work either, because if you don't have a heavy-handed outside linebacker, then all of a sudden you might be asking Nick Bonito to play to the point of attack and play to strength on the line of scrimmage more than you would want him to, and that's not his role. Denver is one of those spots that makes a lot of sense for Nick Bonito because they already have Randy Gregory. They have Bradley Chubb, they hope, in theory. They've got some beef on the interior now, which they like. They move on from Shelby Harris, and then they get a Wuzurike, who I think could come in and be really nice there. They signed DJ Jones, right? They've got Purcell as well still. Hopefully he could be a healthy person in that rotation. So all of a sudden, you free yourself up to maximize exactly what Nick Bonito does really well. And that could be as a stand-up outside designated pass rusher on passing downs, which would be huge. And then he's also done some work in some shallow zone coverage, right? Some zone coverage to the flats.
He's an athlete, really good athlete.
And he can be an athlete in a group that Denver's linebackers right now are Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton. Like, if you just kind of get him in a little bit of rotation in there, get one of those guys off the field, you're getting a lot more speed in the middle. So I actually have come around a little bit to the Nick Bonito pick. I think this is good. I already mentioned Wuzurike. I like Dulcich because he is a replacement for what they already lost with Noah Fant going to the Seattle Seahawks. Mathis, I think, is a nice man coverage corner, but he does kind of struggle with athleticism, so we'll see what you get there. And then I think that they've clearly got a Wisconsin connection there, so I like the Wisconsin guys a good amount. The only I have none as in my don't get category, but you're right. I think offensive line is still a question mark with this team. It's something that they have to be very aware of, even though I figured they probably weren't going to invest heavily in it this draft. I would like for them to be honest with themselves about where their offensive line is. And if it ain't good this year, you better pour a bunch of resources into it the year after that. Because when you look at premium positions, Connor, I would tell you that the 4 premium positions in the NFL are quarterback, pass protector, pass rusher, and then a lockdown corner. Okay. They drafted a lockdown corner last year in Patrick Surtain. So they're going to have their CB1 for forever. They have Bradley Chubb, who they are hoping certainly can stay healthy. And then they went out and they spent money on Randy Gregory, which I think is important there. They have their quarterback for the next, they hope, 4 to 5 years of elite quarterback play in Russell Wilson. That means that the only premium position that you have not hit in the last 2 years via free agency or the draft is pass protector. So that it makes me think that their process is correct in how they are identifying how to build a team. And if the offensive line isn't what it's supposed to be, then they'll be able to improve upon that next year. But that's kind of how I see the Broncos. So I'm a little bit higher on them than you are.
Oh, I totally get it. I think it's totally fair points. And once again, this is going to be a bloodbath, this division. So somebody's got to come out the loser. And we love the Chargers. We obviously love the Chiefs. I'm fascinated to see what the Broncos can do to keep up because they've done everything possible that they can. So this will come down to coaching, this division. And that takes us to the Las Vegas Raiders, who have a new coaching staff under Josh McDaniels, a new regime, obviously. They've made a gigantic splash trading for Davante Adams. But here were their draft picks. No first rounder, no second rounder. So their draft started in the 3rd round. Dylan Parham, interior offensive lineman from Memphis.
Love it.
Zamir White, running back from Georgia, was their first of 2 4th-round picks. Neil Farrell, the 2-gapping defensive tackle from LSU, their other 4th-round pick. Their 5th-round pick was Matthew Butler, a versatile defensive tackle from Tennessee. No 6th-round pick. 2 7th-round picks. They're Mumford Jr., the offensive lineman from Ohio State. And then Britton Brown, running back from UCLA. So, Trevor, our final draft recap, our final draft grade goes to a team that did not have a 1st or 2nd round pick. Mm-hmm. Is there anything you loved?
Yeah, love 2 picks. Love Dylan Parham. I really like them using their first pick on a guy that is, I believe, is really talented, that could play a long time in this league at a position that they also desperately needed, interior offensive line. I think he gives you a lot of flexibility as a center or a left or right guard. He's played both positions. He's got the tight end background. He's a good athlete. He's got the versatility. I love that pick for him. I think it's going to be huge for him as a building block moving forward. Also really love the Zamir White pick. And I talked about this on the desk for the PFF draft show. I like this pick the most because I think that Zamir White and his strengths as an early down back take some pressure off Josh Jacobs to be this 300 carry workhorse. Think about when we all loved Josh Jacobs the most when he was at Alabama. He was a third down guy, right? And I think that everybody looked at Josh Jacobs at Alabama and they were like, okay, this guy can be more than just what Alabama's using him as. There's just so many good running backs at Alabama. And I think that that was the case. But I'm watching how the Raiders have been using Josh Jacobs, and I think they're running him into the ground, man. I feel like he's got a lot of carries.
Fifth-year option.
Dude, I think he's got a lot of emphasis. Like, I think that they are just using this guy a ton. And by allowing him to get a little bit of a breather, have a guy who can work with you as an early down player, I think it's only going to maximize what Josh Jacobs is able to return for you. So that's why I love those 2 picks there. The picks that I liked, hold on, I lost my tab. Oh, I like Neil Farrell. I like Matthew Butler, and I like Britton Brown. Like, I liked all 3 of those guys. I thought the Las Vegas Raiders had a really nice draft, man. I gave this one a B+ at the end of the day, but those are the picks that I loved, and those are the picks I liked.
So I loved their Mumford pick where they got him.
Oh,
I think he had his struggles at guard for Ohio State this year, but he's had a couple of years of starting tape out there. He's also played tackle, and I think he'll be fine. I really do. I think he'll be fine. I like where they got him. And then you kind of nailed it. I liked almost every pick. I mean, seriously, they got a starter in Dylan Parham that's going to play center or guard for them down the stretch. You got Zamir White, who I think is going to take over in 2023 as the starter. They didn't pick up Josh Jacobs' option. You got a 2-gapping defensive tackle. They needed that really badly in Neil Farrell. You got a little bit more of a versatile 3-tech, 5-tech in Matthew Butler. I thought they did a good job with what they had. They really did. They didn't have a lot of picks to work with because they got a freaking stud in Devontae Adams, but I thought the value they hit on, the needs they hit on, they invested in their offensive line. And where a guy like Mumford got passed by maybe 2 rounds later than I thought he would have went, he fits their kind of bruising scheme that I think McDaniels wants to run. So I don't know. I look at this draft and just think they did a really good job preparing for not only this year, but looking towards 2023 when they do lose a couple guys to free agency. So I gave this a B+.
Oh, there we go.
Big fan of what the Raiders did, and obviously this division as a whole did a really, really good job, not just in the draft, but in this entire offseason.
There it is, folks.
There it is.
The 2022 NFL Draft. The final words written.
Wow.
We'll never talk about it again. None of these players.
Ever
none of these results. This is it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. No, of course we're kidding. We're going to talk plenty more about these guys once they get on the field for training camp and preseason, and we're going to be monitoring the rookies and how they've been doing. Look, we had a fun little exercise where we drafted Offensive Rookie of the Year. We're going to be doing the same thing with Defensive Rookie of the Year. Maybe that'll be Mondays. Maybe we'll switch it up a little bit on Monday. One way or another, we're going to have some sort of mock draft Monday for you coming up to start your week next week. We are going to be shifting things a little bit. So just to give you guys a heads up, we've been running 3 shows a week up to this point because it was draft season. Obviously, we were trying to give you guys as much content as we possibly could. During the summer, we're not going away. We're not turning the lights off, nothing like that. No. We are probably going to go to more of 2 shows a week, so probably a Monday and a Thursday show schedule. But we'll still get that mock draft Monday, and then, of course, we'll get into summer scouting a lot. We'll be able to spend a ton of time on each position, really dive into some of the guys that you're going to see in college football this upcoming year, the players that you're going to start talking about in mock draft and in your mock drafts coming up throughout the season, and then, of course, when we get into draft season as well. So we will get you guys ahead of the curve by the end of this summer. We promise you that. No matter how many shows that we got per week, we're definitely gonna make that happen. So Connor, I'm excited, man. It's I'm gonna say it again. It's a bittersweet time, kind of turning the page a little bit, but we're still going to be doing plenty of mock draft Mondays to talk about these rookies. So I guess I can't be too sad. We're not going too far.
No, we're not going too far. I've said this over and over again. This is the most jacked up I've ever been for preseason football. Like true sickos. We will be watching into the second half. This podcast, will truly serve as a transition pod, right? Like we're a draft pod at heart. So we're always looking at college football with a draft angle lens. But we're also going to look at the NFL angle lens of who are the rookies that are popping off, who are the impact young players in the NFL, the guys under 25. Sorry, Velus Jones, you're the only rookie we will not talk about. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's cold. It's cold-blooded.
Wow.
Oh, man. He did it. I think I need to go. I think I need that. And with that being said, I think it's time to go. It has been a lot of fun. I'm excited to get into this next class, too. I know everybody's itching to hear us talk about 2023. We are not going to do a 2023 mock draft until Trevor and I feel like we really have a good pulse of the top players.
Right.
Like, I don't want to sit there and just throw names at you.
Right.
Yes, we could do that with the top 10 in this very moment. But when we get to 25 through 32, I want to give you an honest breakdown of those guys.
Yep.
That's something we're always going to be honest with. So that day will come this summer as well.
And so we will definitely get to that point, whether it's July or August or something. Like we'll be able to, like Connor said, I think after summer scouting, that's when things start to get really fun, right? You have a really good
board. We'll have a board.
Yeah, we will. Shoot, man, we're gonna have a preseason top 50 probably with all the guys that we're watching. We're watching so many guys from every position. So I'm excited to get into it, man. The journey starts Monday. This is the NFL Stock Exchange. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you then.